Welcome, nerds. It is me, your clueless leader, ready to walk you through the first episode of the Freddy Adu and Drew Carey 2 podcast. As this is our first episode, I'm sure there will be many slip-ups. Please bear with me. I promise they will get better each and every week. Speaking of, you will be getting a new episode of the Freddy Adu and Drew Carey 2 podcast each and every week, at least during the MLS season. I can almost promise you that, but I will not because I don't want to lie to you. I'm going to get right into it. Each week will be a little bit different, but we'll have a general format. This week, as in every week, we will start after this quick bit of banter with an update on MLS Atlanta, how the team is going, maybe at least one bit of information. If not that, maybe we'll touch on a little bit of Atlanta soccer. We do have the Silverbacks in town. I will not go too much into that just because I'm not knowledgeable about it, nor am I doing the deep dive into the NASL as I am with the MLS, and really don't want to be your source of information on that, so I apologize. Any Silverbacks fans out there, I do not mean to put the team down by any means. I am a supporter, but there are better people to listen to for that, other podcasts, in fact. But every week I will give you an MLS update, and again, maybe talk about the Silverbacks. I think right now they're in a little battle for first place in the NASL. On from there, you will get an update on my MLS Fantasy team. I'm sorry I will not harp too much on my team in particular because there's nothing worse in the world than people that talk about their fantasy sports teams. Even though we all play it, it cannot be a more frustrating person than he who speaks only in fantasy points. More so that will be general players to watch, maybe how some teams are doing. That also might even work as a general look around the league as it compares to how teams are performing and players. Now, near the end of each podcast, we'll get to what I'm sure everyone is actually looking forward to. That is Freddy Adu and Drew Carey 2. First, usually, we will talk about Freddy Adu, how he is playing, how it's progressing. I will go much into this, or more into this, I should say, later on. Basically, I'm a Freddy Adu apologist, and having said that, I cannot tell you why I'm a Freddy Adu apologist. Again, I will get into that much later, but we will check in on Mr. Freddy Adu and possibly my campaign to bring him to MLS Atlanta in 2017. So we will check in on Mr. Freddy Adu, and also to finish off each podcast, this is where I'll be talking about Drew Carey, the American soccer evangelist. And basically how I will be doing this is I'm doing a complete rewatch of the Drew Carey Show, the once syndicated, not often talked about sitcom from the mid-90s to early 2000s. Can I tell you why I'm doing? I honestly do not know why I'm doing this, but I think it deserves a place on the internet because it is woefully underrepresented in a time of pure nostalgia in our culture. And with that, I will pop this, crack this, Hoplanta, an Atlanta IPA favorite. I will get into format, and hopefully you guys will not tune out. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no pain. La, 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 la. All right, that lovely bit of music there, brought to us by none other than America, can mean only one thing. It is time to talk about MLS Atlanta, the team with no name. Today is Tuesday, April 29th. In the past week or so, not much has come out about the team in particular. Actually, almost a week ago exactly, American Soccer Now did, however, put out a very nice, if not a little bit of a fluff piece with Carlos Bocanegra, the man who will be MLS Atlanta's first technical director. Bocanegra, the former U.S. men's national team captain, also captained several teams in Europe, as well as in MLS, just retired last year. Darren Neal's club president brought him on just a couple months ago to run the show here. Again, spoke with American Soccer Now. You can find it at americansoccernow.com. About many things. Again, not much really in place right now that he can talk about. Of anything that I say is worth mentioning, of course, the academy is talked about a lot. Potential academy. He mentions that should get off the ground next season, as in 2016, maybe earlier, but there's really nothing here. Darren Eales, I believe, also talked recently about trying to find potential land for training ground, facilities, all that type of thing. That seems to be the main focus here, even though Bocanegra will be day-to-day handling all the kind of non-coaching duties with the club, again, including the academy, which, as we've seen recently with the success of some homegrown players, will be very important for Atlanta's MLS team in the future. If there's anything that I think we can really take away from this, besides just getting a little bit more excitement, again, for the team with no name, I would say Bocanegra's excitement about kind of helping bring a culture and being able to set a tone on an expansion team. He also talks a little bit about potential designated players or American players signing with the team. Again, because it's so early, we're still 2 years out from having the team actually take the field. Not much he can do. He says, we've ruled nothing out, and of course he hasn't, because what else would you do with that? At this point, I don't think you can take a ton away from this, but it is nice to hear him on record. This will be Bocanegra's first job or even position in this type of space with this type of responsibilities. He just retired from Chivas USA after last season in 2014. He is probably going to be taking the next 2 years to learn the ins and outs. He does mention he will be visiting some other expansion teams, Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, I believe also Orlando, New York City, FC. Maybe right now is not Orlando SC is not who you want to talk to. They are struggling a bit in the league, but not that they haven't made an impact. They have a great fan base already down there, as well as obviously probably the biggest name in the league at the moment in Kaká. But again, American Soccer Now, I suggest you go check it out. It's a pretty quick read. It won't give you a ton to take away, but it is nice to see everything getting put in place, again, for our team that is yet to be named. Another great musical segue, this time leading us into our MLS Fantasy talk. Guys, again, I will not harp too long on my own MLS Fantasy team, Tommy Wears Copas, and our struggles so far. This is my first year playing. This is more of a way for me to walk through kind of what's happening, learning the ins and outs. Again, I'm still getting my feet wet in this, so if anything, I'm hoping this might help some other people doing the same, or even some seasoned players out there. Maybe my newbie attitude can give you a completely fresh take on something you might not have looked at. Again, I'm not going to walk you through my team straight down the page. I will pick out a couple players from each position that I've been happy with or very displeased with. I'm going to start up top with Kai Kamara. I picked him up early on the advice of some MLS fantasy blogs. He has been nothing but a stud. He is also the price, $8.6 million on fantasy.mlssoccer.com, which is much below some of the higher designated players putting up numbers that Kamara is doing, for a much higher price. He is sitting at about $8.6 million now compared to, 11.4 for Kaká, 11.4 as well for Clint Dempsey, Jovinko, those kind of guys. Ton of production. He's a very fun player to watch as well. So I'd always enjoy watching the condensed matches on MLS Live that are Columbus's to see Kai Kamara do his thing, as well as his celebrations. If you didn't see it early in the year, he had a nice construction hat celebration, with a nice little nod to Columbus Crew SC's old crest. Been very pleased with him. Up top, I also have a cheap option in Dominic Badji. And, that's about all we need to get to right there. I'm very pleased with that. Some guys I have on my radar in the forwards department. Not much else. Honestly, I would say that I have Kyle Lauren, the Orlando City SC forward. That team is struggling right now to score. Kaká does not have much place to put the ball. He is a rookie and a cheap option, so he's going to always be on my list of guys to watch. So let's move over to the midfield. Right now, I am chock full of New York Red Bulls, Felipe, Lloyd Sam, those kind of guys. It is round 9 right now in MLS. That'll be this week. And in round it's 9. So this one is the double game week for them. So not only is New York Red Bulls currently undefeated in the MLS season in real life, but in fantasy, they are playing a Wednesday night game as well as a Saturday night game, giving me double options to rack up on points. Again, Lloyd Sam is having a very good year, as is Felipe. Both those guys aren't breaking the bank too much, $8.4 and $8.9 million. Again, double game week, very nice. Be relying heavily on those two guys to push my team forward. Other midfielders that I kind of have on my radar is a little bit more expensive. I'd have to move some roster moves around, but Castillo out in Dallas, not only is he fun to watch again on those MLS Live condensed matches, but he is a guy who can put up points. I would put him in the tier of big name guys, the Colombian. But someone who's on my current radar. Speaking of radar, let's move on to the defense. That was probably the best segue you will hear all episode, if not on any podcast you ever listen to, ever. Sticking with the Red Bulls, I still have Matt Miazga, I believe is how you say his name. He's a young 19-year-old homegrown player. $5.6 million, actually, which not as expensive or by any means, but still pretty cheap on the defensive end. I also picked up Robbie Rogers this week. He's a little bit more expensive for one of my defenders. He's $7.2 million. I'm trying to keep my defense a little bit cheaper, keep those offensive options, the money for my offensive options, because, again, my first year I'm having a little trouble keeping some consistency up there. Maybe that means I should invest in like a nice center back, like an Omar Gonzalez, but instead I'm going Robbie Rogers. LA Galaxy, I believe, is on a double game week in round 10, so I went ahead and stockpiled him. So having a solid season so far. Also, Axel Sjoberg, I believe is how you say his name. He is $4.7 million with the Colorado Rapids. He is also on a double game week this week with the Rapids and Red Bulls on double game week this week. That'll be nice. Extra points. He's been a solid contributor for what he's doing. I'm sticking with Usted, the Vancouver Whitecaps goalie in the back. I've had him since day one. Has been very nice. Might actually be the top scoring goalkeeper so far this year. So will not complain about that. Has been a very solid contributor for Tommy Wears Copas. In general, any other rookie fantasy MLS players out there, I would recommend you do not do what I have done, which is spread your wealth across your entire lineup. I have found that some of the more successful teams in the league, invest all their money in starters, leaving their bench basically at $4.5 million guys who have a potential to, get some playing time in case there's a last-minute scratch for one of their starters. At the same time, maybe, I'm a little worried about that because I have found so far in my first year of MLS following that it is very irrational sometimes, these roster moves and game day lineups. I experienced that firsthand when Fernando Adi, the Portland Timbers forward, had a late scratch this past week on a 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Sunday night game. Really messed with me there. So just so you know, that you probably should not be listening to. I wouldn't say I gave any advice, but what I say at all. I am currently, as it stands, number 8,277 out of about 28,000 players on fantasy.mlssoccer.com. I was up into about the 25th percentile last week. Did not do so well in round 8, so I've fallen back down. But, it's a learning experience. I still have my wild card. Anyone who's not familiar with the Fantasy MLS wild card, that is an option you can cash in any point in the season. You have one, I believe. I believe there are a couple weeks that everyone can do it as well. But I still have that option where if I want to, I can just punt the entire team, move as many transfers as I like, basically revamp the entire roster in 1 week. I'm undecided if I should use that or not. I kind of like the learning experience of not using it, but, it's a competitive advantage that everyone's able to use. most people probably have to kind of retool their team after some early season struggles. I have not. I think that leaves me on some sort of high ground. But, why wouldn't I use it? So, I think we're done with Fantasy MLS for today. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments on this link on the page. Hit me up on Twitter at MLSplease.com. And, give me some tips. Let me know how to win some games here. Another beautiful audio cue means we have moved on. It is time for part of our namesake. It's time for Freddy Adu. It's time for his update. If you didn't know, he is in Finland, Mr. Adu is, after not having a team near the beginning of the MLS campaign. He signed on with the Finnish squad, name I could not pronounce, but they shortened their name to Cups, K-U-P-S, full name Kupion Palosiora? I'm not sure. You can actually follow them on Twitter at KUPS1923. These guys started an English language Twitter account just for Freddy Adu. They had a full press conference for his signing. So far this week, I believe it was on Sunday, Mr. Freddy Adu got another start. I believe this was his third start on the year, over on the right side. Cups with the 4-0 win. He's been playing well. I believe he had an assist in his first game with Cups. He has not yet found the back of the net himself. I'm sure that will come. If you would like to kind of follow some other Freddy updates, you can check out YouTube user. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have it with me. I apologize profusely. I don't know. It's Italian. I can't even pronounce it. But he has been putting together some great supercuts, about 5 minute long a piece, of Freddy Adu, every single one of his touches for Cups in his matches. And you know what? I'd say he looks consistent. He looks solid. Not trying to do anything too crazy. And you know what? I'm just going to try to get on the line with Mr. Carlos Bocanegra and tell him we need to get that offer sheet ready for Mr. Adu, because I think MLS is ready for his comeback. All right, our last bit on the podcast, probably the most important part. It's time to recap some Drew Carey Show. I personally, before deciding to do this rewatch of every season of the Drew Carey Show, had probably not seen an episode since it went off syndication on, the TBS Superstation, it was probably still called, when it was in syndication several years ago. But, doing some digging around online, there is almost nothing about this show. I don't know if it just has not held up very well. It's kind of forgotten. It ran actually for just as many seasons, 9, as Friends in the exact same years. Maybe Friends just overshadowed it. Again, maybe it just wasn't that good. It was just a generic sitcom on ABC in the 90s that, kind of similar to CD sales back then. Like, if you pressed it, you put it on TV, you put it into record stores, it sold. If people watched it, it was just the nature of the business back then. So it was never performing so low that they could cancel it, but, never was getting a ton of good reviews. But again, after doing some research online, after thinking about Drew Carey and just what he means to American soccer in general, he's a big U.S. men's national team fan. He is part owner of the Seattle Sounders, has done a lot. I don't know. Yeah, I guess he's done a lot for soccer in this country, which is kind of crazy. He might be even the U.S. men's national team's biggest known supporter. He's kind of their celebrity supporter. So I thought I should give him his due. And looking around online, really, besides I believe it was uprocks.com, there's nothing on this show online. But I will give them credit for having a very robust and well-documented Wikipedia pages, much like everything in the world now. So I will be going through, watching every single episode. I will be giving you guys some short summaries. I think it's necessary. I think it needs to be chronicled. I think Mr. Drew Carey needs some due. We know him from The Price is Right Now, but, this guy was a making money network TV style back in the day. And again, I want to talk these through. I want to see why it didn't hold up. And I want to revisit some of these characters, some of these actors that we know from other things. That's part of one of the reason maybe the Drew Carey Show never really has the replay value, the history behind it, the nostalgia, as I mentioned earlier. Some of these other mid-90s and even 80s, 70s shows that found their way onto DVD releases or Netflix. We know these actors from other things, not the Drew Carey Show. Even Drew Carey himself is probably better known now, obviously, as the Price is Right host. But you got these other actors, Diedrich Bader, Ryan Stiles, Krista Miller, Craig Ferguson, even John Carroll Lynch. Like all these actors are known for other things, not for their roles on the Drew Carey Show. And just like I said, how DVD replays and Netflix have given life to these old shows, other shows, not even really good shows sometimes. I'm looking at you, Friends. I'm going to pick on Friends a lot probably on this podcast. It's not that good. If you're a big Friends defender, maybe you should turn off right now. I'm just kidding. I won't go into them that much because that would just be beating a dead horse. But, it just, the Drew Carey Show, I believe I read it was due to some licensing agreements with music on the show. Only the first season was ever re-released on the DVD. And probably will only ever be released on the DVD. So this might be a little bit of a struggle to find these episodes online to stream. Many are not on Netflix. I'll have to be going the extra bootleg route unless there's someone out there, Drew Carey, ex-producer, that has all these DVDs at home and wants to send them my way. I will gladly take them and review them for you on this podcast. So there is a call out for that one. So anyway, today I will be talking about the first 3 episodes of Season 1 on the show. That includes the pilot, Episode 1, Episode 2, Miss Right, and Episode 3, The Joining of Two Unlike Elements is a Mixture. You will notice that in Season 1, a lot of these shows are going to have a chemistry slant on the title. Apparently that was abandoned very quickly because they probably realized that why. But again, as we start in the pilot and through this first season, the opening credits are Drew Carey singing a song, Moon Over Parma. Fun fact, this song had this show has 5 different theme songs. Really, it's just 3. The Vogues, oh my gosh, now I can't remember, it's 5 O'Clock World, thank you, by the Vogues. A very good song, or at least I enjoy it. That would be the theme song for this podcast. Moon Over Parma, like I said, it was in the first season. And then Cleveland Rock's probably the one that everyone knows. Then even later seasons, they did some remixes on all 3 of those songs, trying to keep it fresh, for the young audience of the early 2000s. But we agreed with Moon Over Parma for the first 3 episodes. In the pilot, this is from what I can tell from old pilots I've watched from the mid-90s, this is like the classic 90s pilot. It is just joke after joke. I mean, Drew Carey was a stand-up. He's going the Seinfeld route in this bit. This is basically just Drew Carey telling jokes in the pilot. It's kind of hard to get the tone. And it's even kind of hard to pin down Drew's character in this episode. From what I remember watching old reruns was he's almost kind of like the sad sack, almost like the lovable loser. And I always thought he was kind of down in the dumps, like a Charlie Brown character. That's how I remember him from my youth and teen years in those reruns. But in this first episode, again, he's kind of just spitting out one-liners here and there, kind of riffing with his friends, and he's working his middle management job at a department store. But I'm gonna play this clip for you here because this doesn't sound like the kind of character that I remember.
This working overtime. Look out!
Hey, Drew, looking sharp.
Feeling sharp, Lewis? Don't touch me, man. You'll cut yourself. Man, what a party! Can't believe you guys are still here. Hey, look! It's tomorrow. When are you guys going home?
So that was Drew coming downstairs on his way to work. Apparently the night before, him and his buddies, Oswald and Lewis, are it just threw a rager. I don't know what day this was, a Sunday night, a Tuesday night. I don't know. I had a big party. Here he is coming down the stairs, just jolly, off to get into the carpool to go to his middle management job. Not really how I remember him, but again, this is a pilot. Kind of is all over the place. So, I will say, though, that besides the kind of writing being a little stiff, getting into it, it's actually amazing the kind of relationships all these actors already have with each other on this show. Drew's character is probably the I don't want to say most poorly written, just not really there yet. And I don't know if that's because he wasn't quite an actor yet, but Ryan Stiles as Lewis, Dietrich Bader as Oswald, Krista Miller as Kate, all of them very good. And the way they're interacting with each other definitely makes it seem like this show was not in its pilot episode. That goes through in episodes 2 and 3. We basically meet everyone in episode 1 with Lewis, Oswald, Kate, the buddies, with Drew. We also meet Mimi Bobek, played by Kathy Kinney. She's probably one of the best well-known characters off that show. In the first episode, Drew actually has to interview Mimi for a job. It turns into this whole argument about sexism and image issues with Mimi and maybe how she shouldn't be working at a makeup counter. She makes a big deal about it. That's kind of where that episode gets left. Drew, the guy is just trying to have a good time in his, again, very bureaucratic job at the department store in the hiring department. Just trying to get by, and Mimi makes his life really hard, even in this interview. That is kind of where that gets left in that episode. We understand a little bit of their relationship at that point, but this is where I'm going to get right into episode 2. At one point, Mimi is all of a sudden back in the office, even though Drew has not given her a job. This is where he finds out that Mimi, because the department store did not win a lawsuit because of Drew's questionable hiring practices, hired Mimi as an assistant for Mr. Bell. Here's a bit you should probably know. Craig Ferguson was not on the show in season 1. Mr. Bell is a faceless character. You hear him over phone calls and intercoms and that sort of thing. But we do not see him for a long time. So Mimi is hired on as an assistant, and I'm going to play you this bit right here. This is really setting you up for the Mimi and Drew dynamic for basically the entire run.
From now on, your life's going to be hell. Not a day goes by that I don't try to get you fired.
All right, so besides establishing many relationships in these first couple episodes, like that Mimi clip that I just played for you, we also do meet the character Lisa Robbins, that is played by Katie Silverstone. She ends up being, I believe, Drew's girlfriend for a while in the first season. We will see. She pops up in episode 2, not to be seen or even talked about in episode 3, as far as I can tell. So these were shot a little bit out of order, even maybe played out of order. I don't really know. We'll see where that goes. But I really want to say that's about all that Miss Wright has on it, mostly establishing this relationship for Drew that is immediately thrown out the window for at least an episode or 2. So in episode 3, the joining of two unlike elements in a mixture, or is a mixture, excuse me, this is where we really dive into Kate's character, played by Krista Miller. Probably know her more for maybe Dr. Cox's wife / ex-wife on Scrubs, or on her role as Cougar Town. You would know her. In the Drew Carey Show, she played a much more kind of upbeat character, just kind of one of the guys, along with Drew, Lewis, and Oswald. In it, she's feeling a little down in the dumps about not being married yet while she has to attend all these wedding showers. And I'm going to play you a couple clips here because this, I would say, again, explains why maybe you have this female character also in the group and why they have all have a very loving relationship with her, especially Drew, and maybe why that is so and why that's not so romantically involved at this point.
I guess. You ever wonder why one of us never married Kate?
You're like marrying your sister.
Hey, some countries they do that. I always thought we were saving her, just in case. It's kind of weird, though, that none of us ever dated her, especially you, Drew.
So that was a bit of the three guys talking after they had been throwing a fake shotgun wedding for Drew and Kate to help cheer her up at their favorite bar, the Warsaw Tavern. We'll be seeing that location much more. And then also in the episode, there's another bit, this time in a limousine on the way back from the Warsaw Tavern, just between Drew and Kate, is a nice little moment. Again, explains more of the Drew and Kate dynamic. I think you can really say that the two of them are very much in love at this point on a friend level, and they're very buddy-buddy. They mean a lot to each other. They talk a lot. They check in on each other, even these first three episodes, a lot, looking out for having each other's back, all that kind of stuff. So again, here's this nice little tender moment in the back of the limousine between the two of them.
I should be so lucky to marry someone like you, but not you.
I should be so lucky as to marry someone like Anna Nicole Smith. But her.
I obviously had to also play that clip for the lovely Anna Nicole Smith shout out, timely for 1995. Okay, so I would say that wraps up our first three episodes of the Drew Carey Show recap. Again, it is a mid-90s sitcom. It's, a lot of zingers, a lot of one-liners. You have a studio audience with the laugh track. Not that's necessarily a bad thing, but a little bit different than what we're used to a lot of times now in more critically well-received shows on TV. But, so far so good. Again, I really think Ryan Stiles, Dietrich Bader, Kristen Miller, along with Drew Carey, they really have a strong ensemble very early on in the show. Kind of overlook some of the other factors that would maybe make this not an enjoyable watch. I don't want to say, again, stale writing. It was more of the time. But, generic sitcom writing. I'm looking forward to it. I will, again, also give a nice shout-out here to an ancillary character in the first couple episodes, played by Blake Clark. You would know him as the voice of Slinky Dog from the Toy Story movies. He was also in The Waterboy. I believe he was the farmer. 50 First Dates, I forget what he was in that. But you would know the guy. He plays Drew's neighbor, who eventually is not on the show anymore. I don't actually remember him, and he's not even mentioned almost on anything about the show. I think he just quietly got phased out. We'll see if something else happens to him on the show. But in the first couple episodes, he has a monkey that is throwing feces at Drew's friends as they try to enter his home. He has bees that get loose, as well as loose in his car that Drew has to drive. And there's a large iguana that likes to wander over into Drew's property a lot. That includes on his outdoor pool table that I think was a fixture on the show, and a lot of time gets spent around. So that'll wrap up the Drew Carey Show. First three episodes of Season 1 for this week, but don't worry, guys. You will get much more of that on the Freddy Adu and Drew Carey 2 podcast. Oh, hey guys, I'm glad you made it here, all the way to the end of episode 1. It's impressive. I'm sorry this one ran a little bit long. I promise to keep these around 20 minutes apiece. I can be a bit verbose, But I promise it'll be worth it because you will learn so much about the Drew Carey Show. You will not even be ready to let people know how much you know about the Drew Carey Show. During the downtime in between episodes, you're welcome to check out the website, cokesowhite.com. That is COKESOWHITE.com. You can also hit me up on Twitter at MLS Please. Comment on the SoundCloud link. Follow, do all that kind of stuff. You can also find it on Facebook. That is Major League Sucker, facebook.com/Major League Sucker. Check it out. Hit me up. Hope to see you next week.